In the ancient old city of, there once was a man who had two loving sons. One fateful day, the younger son made an utterly shocking request. "But father, give me my fair share of the inheritance." It was a request that left the father utterly broken-hearted. Yet despite his disappointment, he finally said yes. Touched by the pain in his heart, the father didn't harshly rebuke nor completely ignore his curious request. He took a close, tender step toward him and gazed deeply into his eyes. At this particular moment, he would have been completely content because he had finally achieved what he had been seeking tirelessly. With a wealth of money in his possessions and dreams echoing in his heart, the young man made the decision to leave his home and embark on a journey, leaving behind all those precious moments of love and warmth shared with his loved ones. He ventured into a life he believed would gift him freedom from the confines of his father's house. The father, watching him from afar, could only see the young man walking away into the unknown, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. The father's heart swelled with sorrow as he watched his son walk out the door into the uncertain future that awaited him. You can imagine the myriad of thoughts that were going through his mind in that moment. He could not help but bow his head, expressing his deep sadness. At first, life was exciting. Everything felt new, alive, full of promise. There was laughter that filled the air, loud music that never seemed to end, and nights that turned into mornings without a care. Money flowed like water. He spent without thinking, without planning. Careless spending became his lifestyle. Every day felt like a celebration, every moment an escape. He had friends everywhere, both women and men, surrounding him constantly. They called him, laughed with him, stayed close to him. He was always the center of attention. Slowly, quietly, everything began to change. The money started to run out. The laughter faded. And one day it was all gone. By the time he had wasted everything. When the noise had disappeared and the crowd was nowhere to be found, he finally came to himself. Then everything changed. The money ran out, and when the money finishes, the friends go with it. The laughter faded, the music stopped, and the voices that once filled his days slowly disappeared. One by one, the people he thought were loyal left him. Soon he was left with nothing but silence. And as if things couldn't get worse, a famine struck the land. Food became scarce, opportunities vanished, and hunger began to bite hard. The same hands that once spent freely were now empty. The same man who once had plenty now struggled to survive. And suddenly he was alone. All those party friends, all the cheers, all the good times, gone. In that quiet, painful moment, reality hit him. He began to think deeply. What do I do now? Where do I go from here? For the first time in a long while, he had no one to turn to but himself. Hungry and desperate, he finally found work, feeding pigs. A job no one wanted, a job people avoided, but for him, it was the only option left. Day after day, he stood there in the dirt, surrounded by the smell, the noise, and the shame of how far he had fallen. This was not the life he imagined. This was not how he thought his story would go. He was so hungry, so weak, so worn out, that he began to look at the food the pigs were eating and wish he could have just a little of it. Even that looked better than the emptiness in his stomach. But no one gave him anything. No help, no kindness, no relief. The same world that once celebrated him now ignored him completely. And in that moment of deep hunger and desperation, he realized just how alone he truly was. Then, in the middle of that hunger, that silence, that broken place, he came to his senses. It was like a sudden awakening, a moment of clarity he hadn't felt in a long time. He began to think, even my father's servants have more than enough food to eat. They are cared for, they are safe. And here I am starving, struggling, barely surviving. The truth hit him deeply, not just about his hunger, but about his choices, about how far he had wandered and what he had lost along the way. And right there in that low place, a decision was born. I will go back. Not with pride, not with excuses, but with humility. I will go back to my father. And I will say, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Just make me like one of your servants. For the first time in a long while, he chose to return home. So he got up slowly, weak but determined, and began the journey back home. Every step carried weight, memories, regret, fear. He didn't know what awaited him. Would he be rejected? Would he be turned away? Still, he kept walking. The road felt long and his heart beat with uncertainty, but something stronger than fear pushed him forward, hope. And while he was still far away, just a small figure in the distance, his father saw him. Not by accident, but because he had been watching, waiting, hoping for this very moment. The father recognized him instantly, despite the distance, despite the condition he was in. And without hesitation, without waiting, without holding back, his father ran to him. Not walking, not standing still. He ran full of compassion, full of love, full of joy. Before the son could even speak, before he could explain himself, he was already being embraced. Before he could even finish his apology, before he could say all the words he had rehearsed over and over, his father embraced him. Not with hesitation, not with distance, but with open arms pulling him close. There was no anger in his eyes, no rejection in his voice, no punishment waiting for him. Only love, a deep, overwhelming love that the son did not expect and did not feel he deserved. In that moment, everything changed. The shame, the fear, the regret began to fade. As he was held not as a servant, but as a son, the father lifted his voice with joy and said, "Quickly bring the best robe, the finest we have, and put it on him. Bring a ring for his hand, a sign that he belongs here, that he is still my son. And sandals for his feet, because he will no longer walk like a servant." There was urgency in his words, excitement, a joy that could not be hidden. "Prepare a feast," he said. "Let there be music, laughter, and celebration. Let the whole house come alive again. Let's celebrate. For this son of mine was lost, wandering, broken, far from home. And now he is found. He was gone, but now he is back. He was empty, but now he is restored." And in that moment, the house was filled with joy, because love had welcomed him home. But the older brother, standing at a distance, heard the music, the laughter, the celebration, and his heart grew heavy. He was angry, confused, hurt, frustrated. "Why celebrate him?" he said, his voice tight with emotion. "After everything he did, after the way he left, after wasting it all, why does he deserve this?" He couldn't understand it. "I stayed," he said. "I never left. I did what was right. I obeyed. I worked. I remained faithful all this time." Each word carried years of silent effort and unspoken pain. "And yet you never celebrated me like this." To him, it didn't feel fair. The father looked at him not with frustration, but with gentleness in his eyes. "My son," he said softly, drawing closer, "you are always with me. Everything I have has always been yours. You have never been forgotten, not for a single moment." His voice carried both reassurance and deep understanding. "But your brother," he continued, "your brother was lost. He was gone, as good as dead to us." There was a pause filled with meaning. "And now he is alive again. He has returned. He has been restored. This is why we celebrate. This is why our hearts are full. Not to take anything away from you, but because what was lost has now been found. This is a story of grace. A grace that reaches down even when we fall and lifts us back up again. A story of forgiveness. Not earned, not deserved, but freely given again and again. And above all, a story of love. A love that does not give up, does not walk away. A love that keeps waiting, keeps hopping, until we find our way back home.